Growing up with a narcissistic mother feels like living in two different worlds at once. From feeling like you're never good enough to apologizing for things you didn't do, the weight has been exhausting. Meanwhile, everyone else thinks your mom is wonderful. That disconnect isn't your imagination, it's a pattern. But you know a different person entirely. In this video, I'll share 10 signs that prove you're not crazy. Your mother is a narcissist. She rewrites reality. You remember exactly what she said. You can recall the moment, the tone, even where you were standing when it happened. But when you bring it up, she denies it ever occurred. She tells you that you are making things up, being dramatic, or remembering it completely wrong. After enough of these conversations, you start to wonder if your own mind can be trusted. This is called gaslighting, and narcissistic mothers use it as one of their most powerful tools. The term comes from a 1944 film where a husband manipulates his wife into believing she is losing her grip on reality. Narcissistic mothers do the same thing to their children, often without the child realizing what is happening until years later. She might say things like, "I never said that," or "You are too sensitive," or "That is not how it happened." When you express hurt over something she did, she flips it around and accuses you of attacking her. The goal of gaslighting is control. By making you doubt your own perceptions and memories, she keeps herself in a position of power. You become easier to manipulate because you no longer trust your own judgment. This is precisely why the title of this video matters. You are not crazy. Your memories are valid, and what you experienced was real, even if she spent years trying to convince you otherwise. She has two faces. The most confusing part of growing up with a narcissistic mother is that you seem to know a completely different person than everyone else does. At family gatherings, she laughs and glows with warmth that strangers find magnetic. Coworkers and neighbors describe her as kind and selfless. People who meet her briefly walk away impressed and perhaps even envious of you. But you have seen what happens when the audience leaves. The softness in her voice hardens. The smile fades into irritation or cold indifference. The woman who just spent an hour impressing guests now has nothing but harsh words or silent contempt for you. This is not something you imagined or exaggerated over time. Dr. Carol McBride, a licensed therapist who has studied narcissistic mothers for decades, describes one type as the mother who is loving in front of others, but cruel when no one is watching. The contradiction between these two versions is deliberate, because her image in the outside world matters more than your well-being inside the home. What makes this so damaging is the isolation it creates. When you share your experience with someone who has only seen her public self, they cannot reconcile your story with the person they know. You end up feeling unheard, dismissed, and sometimes blamed for speaking against someone so universally admired. You were never your own person from the earliest moments of your life. Your mother saw you as an extension of herself rather than a separate individual. Your preferences, your dreams, and your choices were never truly yours to make. Everything had to align with her vision of who you should be and how you should reflect on her. Maybe she pushed you toward a career that fulfilled her unrealized ambitions. Maybe she controlled what you wore, who you spent time with, or how you expressed yourself. When you made choices she disagreed with, you were met with disappointment, guilt, or outright hostility. Your job was to make her look good, and any deviation from that role was treated as betrayal. Psychoanalyst Margaret Mahler studied how children develop their sense of self during early childhood. She found that healthy development requires a gradual separation from the mother so that the child can form their own identity. But narcissistic mothers resist this separation because they experience their children as extensions of their own ego rather than independent beings with their own thoughts and needs. 8. This is why so many children of narcissistic mothers struggle with knowing who they actually are. When you were never permitted to have your own identity, you grow up feeling empty or lost. You may find yourself constantly seeking approval from others because you never learned that your own voice and your own desires are valid. Her love comes with conditions. A mother's love should be the one thing in life you never have to earn. But with a narcissistic mother, affection always comes with strings attached. You learned early that her warmth depended entirely on whether you were meeting her expectations at any given moment. When you pleased her, she was attentive and approving. When you disappointed her, or stepped outside the lines she drew, that love vanished as quickly as it appeared. You grew up understanding that acceptance was something you had to work for constantly, and even then it could be withdrawn without warning. She may have reminded you frequently of everything she sacrificed for you. Phrases like, "After all I have done for you," became weapons designed to keep you in a permanent state of emotional debt. You were expected to repay her endlessly for the basic care that parents are supposed to provide without keeping score. This conditional dynamic teaches children that they are only valuable when they are useful to someone else. Research on narcissistic parenting has shown that children raised this way often develop chronic people-pleasing behaviors and deep fears of rejection. They carry a persistent belief that they are not inherently worthy of love unless they are performing, achieving, or giving something in return. The truth is that love with conditions is not love at all. It is a transaction, and you were trained from childhood to keep paying the price. Empathy is performed, not felt. When you were hurting, your mother may have said the right words. She may have offered a concerned expression or a sympathetic tone that sounded convincing on the surface. But something always felt hollow about it, as though she was reading from a script rather than genuinely feeling your pain alongside you. Narcissistic mothers can mimic empathy when it serves their image or when others are watching. They know what caring is supposed to look like, and they can perform it convincingly in short bursts. But when you truly needed her to sit with your pain, to understand your struggle without making it about herself, she simply was not capable. Often, your problems became inconveniences to her rather than concerns worth addressing. She may have dismissed your feelings entirely or redirected the conversation back to her own difficulties. Yes. If you were upset about something she did, she might have responded by listing all the ways she was actually the one suffering in the situation. Research on narcissistic personality disorder consistently identifies a lack of genuine empathy as one of its core features. Children raised by mothers with this trait often report feeling invisible, as though their inner emotional world never truly mattered to the one person who should have cared most. This absence leaves a wound that many carry into adulthood. You may still struggle to believe that your feelings are valid, or that anyone could truly care about what you were going through. She's hypercritical but fragile. Nothing you did was ever quite good enough for her. Your grades could have been higher. Your appearance could have been better. Your choices could have been smarter. She always found something to correct or criticize, and her commentary shaped how you came to see yourself over time. Narcissistic mothers position themselves as the ultimate authority on everything around them. They freely judge others, pointing out flaws and failures with ease. Whether overtly harsh or wrapped in passive-aggressive suggestions, their criticism flows constantly toward the people closest to them. But there is a painful contradiction at the center of this behavior. The same woman who dishes out criticism so freely cannot tolerate even the smallest amount directed back at her. If you tried to point out something she did that hurt you, she reacted as though you had attacked her very existence. This fragility exists because narcissism is built on a foundation that cannot withstand examination. Her sense of superiority is not rooted in genuine confidence, but in a desperate need to avoid confronting her own inadequacies. Your honesty becomes a mirror she cannot bear to look into, so she shatters it before it can reflect anything back. The result is a one-sided dynamic, where she holds all the power to evaluate and judge while you are expected to accept her assessments without question. Speaking up for yourself becomes impossible without consequences. Your boundaries are attacks for a narcissistic mother. The word no is simply not acceptable. She does not recognize your right to set limits, because she believes she has complete authority over your life regardless of how old you are. In her mind, you still belong to her the same way you did when you were a small child. When you try to establish any kind of boundary, she perceives it as a direct attack against her. It does not matter how gently you phrase it or how reasonable your request might be. To her, your attempt to protect yourself is evidence that you are pushing her away or treating her unfairly. She feels entitled to every part of your life. She may share your private information with relatives or friends without asking permission. She may override your decisions and insert her preferences as though yours do not exist. When you object, she reminds you of everything she has done for you and everything you owe her in return. Guilt becomes her primary weapon when boundaries are involved. She might say things designed to make you feel like a terrible child for simply wanting space or autonomy. The goal is to shame you into abandoning your limits and returning to full compliance with her demands. This is why so many children of narcissistic mothers struggle to say no to anyone. You were trained to believe that having boundaries makes you a bad person. Her reactions are radioactive. Everyone has moments when they react poorly or lose their temper. That is part of being human. But with a narcissistic mother, explosive and disproportionate reactions are not occasional mistakes. They are a consistent pattern you learn to anticipate and fear from a young age. You knew exactly which topics to avoid and which words would set her off. You became skilled at reading her mood the moment you entered a room, because saying the wrong thing could turn an ordinary evening into a disaster. Her anger did not match the situation, but you were expected to manage it anyway and keep the peace at all costs. Whenever you tried to bring something to her attention that she did not want to hear, you were met with a predictable sequence of responses. First came the defensiveness, then the refusal to engage, and finally the transformation into the wounded party. Somehow, your attempt to address a problem always ended with her being the victim. Narcissistic mothers are incapable of honest self-reflection. They cannot examine their own behavior because doing so would threaten the image they have built. So instead of acknowledging fault, they deflect, deny, and shift blame onto anyone nearby. Nothing is ever her responsibility. If you dared to suggest otherwise, you were not met with curiosity or openness. You were met with a reaction designed to ensure you would never bring it up again. She's entitled and everyone else is jealous. Your mother carries herself as though the world owes her special treatment. Rules that apply to other people do not apply to her. She expects exceptions, privileges, and accommodations wherever she goes. And she becomes indignant when they are not automatically provided. In her mind, she deserves more than what ordinary people receive simply because of who she is. This entitlement can show up in different ways. Some narcissistic mothers are loud about it, demanding attention at every gathering, boasting about their accomplishments, and looking down on anyone they consider beneath them. They may treat service workers with contempt, or make scenes when things do not go their way. Others express it more quietly through subtle condescension and an unspoken belief that they are simply better than the people around them. You may have noticed that she struggles to maintain friendships over time. People drift in and out of her life in a constant rotation, and the relationships that do last often involve others who share her dysfunctional patterns. Genuine connection requires vulnerability and mutual respect, neither of which she is capable of offering consistently to anyone. When relationships fall apart, she never considers that her own behavior might be the cause. Instead, she reaches for the explanation that protects her ego most effectively. Those people were jealous of her. They could not handle how successful, attractive, or impressive she is, so they left out of envy rather than exhaustion. This narrative keeps her image intact while ensuring she never has to examine the role. She played in driving people away from her life. Her face reveals what her words hide, sometimes. The most honest communication from a narcissistic mother is not what she says, but what flashes across her face when she thinks no one is paying attention. You may have noticed expressions that seem almost involuntary. Brief moments where her true feelings break through the surface before she composes herself again. These are the seconds when her mask slips just enough for you to catch a glimpse of what lies underneath. The eye roll when you share something you are proud of. That small movement of her eyes that tells you she does not care about your achievement, or, worse, that she finds it unimpressive or annoying. The smirk when something does not go your way, a flash of satisfaction that disappears as quickly as it appeared. The flicker of annoyance when attention shifts away from her and lands on someone else in the room. A look of contempt that crosses her face so quickly you almost wonder if you imagined it. Maybe you saw something that was not really there. These micro-expressions tell a story that contradicts every loving word she has ever spoken. They reveal what is really happening inside her, even when her mouth is saying something completely different. Children are remarkably perceptive when it comes to reading their parents' faces. Long before you had words to describe what you were seeing, long before you could name these expressions or explain why they made you feel the way they did, you learned to scan her expression for signs of approval or disapproval. You became an expert at detecting the subtle shift in her eyes that meant trouble was coming. Even when her voice remained calm and her words sounded perfectly normal. You developed this skill because you had to. Reading her face accurately was how you protected yourself and prepared for what might happen next. What makes this so painful is that a mother's face is supposed to be a source of comfort and reassurance. It is supposed to be the place where a child looks and finds love, warmth, and acceptance. Infants look to their mother's expressions to understand whether the world is safe, whether they are okay, whether everything is going to be all right. When a child repeatedly sees disdain, disappointment, or disgust reflected back at them instead, it shapes their deepest beliefs about their own worth. It teaches them that they are not enough, that something about them is fundamentally wrong or unlovable. These expressions reveal what she truly feels beneath the performance she puts on for others. The contempt in her eyes says what her words never will, that she sees herself as fundamentally superior to the people around her, including her own children. You are not imagining the coldness you detect. You are seeing the truth she cannot fully conceal, no matter how carefully she controls her words. Many children of narcissistic mothers describe this same experience without ever having compared notes with each other. The looks of judgment, the expressions of disapproval, the face that softens for strangers, but hardens the moment you are alone together. Your ability to notice these things is not a sign of paranoia. It is evidence that you learn to survive by paying very close attention to the person who is supposed to keep you safe. What this means for you if you recognized your mother in these 10 signs, you may be feeling a strange mix of emotions right now. There might be relief in finally having words for what you experienced, but also grief for the relationship you deserved but never received. Both of those feelings can exist at the same time, and both of them are completely valid. Understanding that your mother has narcissistic traits does not mean you have to hate her or cut her out of your life immediately. That is a deeply personal decision that only you can make based on your own circumstances. What this understanding does provide is clarity. It allows you to stop blaming yourself for a dynamic that was never your fault and was never yours to fix. The patterns you learned in childhood do not have to define the rest of your life. Many children of narcissistic mothers grow up to be compassionate, self-aware adults precisely because they know what it feels like to be dismissed and invalidated. That pain can become wisdom if you allow yourself to process it honestly. Healing is possible, but it rarely happens in isolation. Working with a therapist who understands narcissistic family dynamics can help you untangle the beliefs about yourself that were planted during childhood. Support groups and books written by specialists in this area can also provide guidance and validation as you navigate this journey. You are not crazy for feeling the way you feel. You are not ungrateful for recognizing the truth about your mother. You are not a bad child for wanting to protect yourself from further harm. These are the lies that narcissistic mothers plant in their children to maintain control, and you have every right to reject them. The fact that you watched this video and made it to the end says something important about you. It means you are searching for answers. And that search is the first step toward building a life where your reality is honored. Your boundaries are respected, and your worth is no longer determined by someone incapable of seeing it clearly.